everybody, if you don't know who this is Tommy. He's the man that bought my business, the one that I've been talking about on this channel for the last month. But everybody tells me it's cool that I sold the business, but what I think is really, really cool is actually buying a business. And, it's almost like selling a business. A lot of people view that as smart. I view the opposite. I'm like, the people that are buying them, growing them, keeping them even, those are the ones that I really respect and want to learn from. So, and a lot of people have asked me a lot of questions. So I figured I'd come see you, talk to you directly. And I got a list of questions here, but if you want to start just telling people who you are, what's your background, what got you into business. I know you've been in business longer than I've been alive, so.
Yeah, so as you'll be able to tell in the video from the accent, from the South, North Carolina, born and raised. My family was dairy farmers. My dad was a general contractor, built homes, but worked on the family farm, growing up. And when he was not milking cows, they would build a barn or build a house for somebody. So my granddaddy was a builder too, and that's how we sort of got started out. So my dad, and the relevance behind that is always, when I'm talking to people, I want to know, how they grew up. Were their parents entrepreneurs? And I say that anytime I'm like hiring employees, talking to a potential company that I'm looking at buying, I always love to hear the story behind how they started this business, because they're all different. But a lot of the entrepreneurs, what you find out is that their parents were entrepreneurs. So it's like a spirit of entrepreneurship,
Not all of us.
Yeah, not all of them, but like maybe your parents weren't, but like your uncle could have been, or you worked in a family business where, you worked there, but you were really part of that family unit of that family business, so not necessarily you had to, your parents had to be entrepreneurs, but you'd worked in a small business before. You saw the ins and outs of it, from the customer interactions to the, procuring the product you're selling or distribution or whatever.
So your family was farmers, which basically is an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I mean, it's you have to learn how to do a lot with nothing. If a tractor breaks down, you don't call somebody to come fix the tractor. You pull it up to the barn, you break out your tools, and you figure out how to fix it yourself. Or maybe you have another farmer that's down the road from you, and he's had that same problem, so maybe he comes and helps you. But you all help each other. I mean, and growing up, on the weekends, we'd either raise a barn or roof a house or something, and it was all community. We had a pretty tight knit community, and everybody knew my dad.
I looked up the town. There's a few hundred people live here, and it's all farmland.
And then everybody knows everybody, which is good and bad. But when bad things happen in our town, everybody comes together. Now we may talk shit about each other or whatever, but we can do that because we're all friends and family. But nobody else is going to talk crap about them. We have some key people in our town, and I'm very, very protective of all those guys, because they invest in this town. They employ people in this town. They have businesses in this town, and I'm pretty.
So one of your companies, your oldest company, actually. Do you want to get into kind of how you got about starting in that or investing into it, and kind of how you've contributed to the community?
So I started out, my dad, like I say, he was a builder. I would work every summer helping him, and we butted heads just like any father-son, just too much alike, both of us want to be the boss. And I realized early on that I was probably not going to do too good working for other people, because my only problem, I didn't have a problem respecting other people or how they wanted it done or anything like that. What I had a problem with was people asking me to do things that just were not very smart and was not the best way of doing it, or the most economical way, or whatever it was. And I just didn't like doing stupid stuff, whether they were paying me to do it or not. I had an issue with it. I don't know.
Yeah, they call that defiance disorder.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have that. But in starting out, in business, I was working for a company, and had a couple different jobs before I started out sort of on my own. But I had a business mentor who came to me and said, "Hey man, I got this company. We've got a new contract. The plant manager, he's aging, and he's just not able to do the job. He's not capable of it." And he said, "Hey, would you mind coming on board and working with me to grow it and whatnot?" And he was just more of like a silent investor, but he was he was a real entrepreneur. He was an entrepreneur, but he was a mentor, to me. When I first started in business, I felt like if I was having a good month, it was because I had money in the bank. And what you realize after being in business for a little while and looking at P&L and balance sheets, that you really good business owners focus more on the balance sheet than they do the P&L statement, because that's where the rubber meets the road. You can fake a lot of things on a P&L, but you can't really fake a balance sheet.
Yeah. And your company has a lot of assets, right?
Yes, lots of equipment, lots of inventory,
Yep.
property. It runs the full. We are very CapEx heavy, so I have been trying to look for companies that are less CapEx, which enters you.
Like drop shipping,
Yeah, which enters you and
e-commerce, everything online.
Yeah, I mean it's. I've always been real skittish of e-com, just because I didn't know enough about it. I was just always, manufacturing something. I was always in the manufacturing space, and so I understand raw materials, turning them into finished goods, distribution, sales channels, and I understood all that kind of stuff. But the e-com, I hate to say it's new because it's not new, but smartphones, when were they invented? 2007?
E-com has definitely exploded in the last 10 years.
Yeah. So it's easier now to know how to look at e-com businesses and know if they're a good fit and whatnot. And you can find potential funding if you need outside funding. There are financial institutions now that will loan money on e-com. When they first came out, don't even think about
Banks
going to the
wouldn't
bank.
touch it.
No, heck no. They thought you were crazy, and it was just something they didn't understand, so they weren't going to invest in that, But, me starting out, I went to school to be a tool and die mold maker. So my uncle was a machinist, and I grew up around a machine shop, my whole life, and my dad was a builder. And my dad said that a machinist was just a carpenter gone crazy, because he'd taken things to extreme, holding tolerances and, because in building a house, if you're plus or minus a 16th, you're good. Well, that don't work in machining. You got to be plus or minus a thousandth, and a lot of stuff.
I've noticed in your company that you have here in your building, and probably with the other company too. I'm not going to say anything. I'll let you determine what you want to talk about, but very, very like precision based. Like everything is like down to not even the millimeter. Like I don't even know what you would call it. But.
Yeah, everything we try to do is within a two to 5 thousandths is probably our biggest tolerance, which insane. A lot of when you're working with acrylics and wood, and people think that's, a machinist, they would say, hey, I can do that. It's manageable on a manual machine.
Yeah.
Well, all of our stuff's pretty much made on a CNC or a laser, something, that's computer controlled now. We do some manual machining, but mainly only when we're installing certain products, but they're put in a jig that doesn't move, and it's just like a spot face or a whatever, as far as that goes. But everything we do here is 2 to 5 thousandths.
So did you end up finishing college or?
Yeah. I finished college, got a degree. I graduated with honors. I don't know how I made it through high school because
I didn't.
I never took a book home. I never studied for a test. I made A's and B's. As long as the teacher did a good job explaining the curriculum, I was fine. I was so bored with high school. The only reason I stayed in high school was because we had a really good ag production teacher. He taught me a lot. We had tool ID, and we had welding, and we had all that kind of cool stuff. And I related to that, fixing stuff on a farm. So that was the only thing that kept me entertained in school. And then our local community college had probably one of the best machine and tool and die schools on the East Coast at the time. The most progressive. Everything's pushing CNC controlled. They taught you everything on manual because they thought you needed to know how it would be done manually, but then they also taught the CNC side too. And so I was certified, programmer for Haas within just a couple years. I worked for a electromechanical company right out of college and through college, building automated equipment. So a lot of my initial work before I started, my own, was process and efficiency of a production line.
So you did have a real job?
Yeah. I did originally. I worked for Static Control Components for several years. They built all of the the equipment that made your static control free bags, those little gray bags that chips, circuit boards come in.
You think working for another company on that helped you?
Yeah, for sure. Because you learned process, you learned hierarchy, you learned, you know,
Bureaucracy.
yeah, the bureaucracy of all that stuff. And you learned what I learned was how I wanted to do things different when I had my own company. I wanted to treat my employees different. I wanted them to have a voice. I mean, until a point, I learned that, you go out and you get as much input as you can, but then when you come back and you make a decision, at that point in time, it turns into a dictatorship. This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to move forward. In that process of trying to decide, I would lobby everybody's opinion and down to the guy sweeping the floor. I value him just as much as I value an engineer or anybody else, because when our visitors came in and they saw how clean and neat the place was, that was a direct reflection of him. So when I first started working in the automation company, and one of my jobs was in the evenings when everybody would leave, I'd go clean the bathrooms. But I mean, I was starting out, I was doing whatever I had to do,
Oh, yeah.
And it teaches you a lot of humility. I learned at that company how to work with, we had some elder engineers, we had some elder machinists, and I learned very quickly how to ask them if something could be done and what the time frame could be. I never told them to do anything, even though at one time I was over 25, 30 tool makers. I was a planner, so I had to give everybody their work and, assign it. And I would go and say, hey, here's some prints. How would you go about doing this? Can this be done? Because a lot of stuff we're doing R&D, for a lot of the stuff. And I learned that I got a lot better response doing that than I did, here's some prints. I need these by the end of the day. I would not get very good results doing that. If I went and asked them, could this be done, and how would you do it, and how long do you think it would take?
Like, do this.
You just learn to have people work with you instead of for you.
Yeah.
I learned that was the most valuable lesson. I mean, that
was a big emphasis when you were talking about the team that's running the business you bought from me. Is you were just like, these guys don't work for me. They're working with me to like build this company, and
100%.
Huge emphasis on that. So
yeah, and I like to put incentives out there, and I want it to be a win-win-win. A win for me as a stockholder, a win for the employees. As really, I want them to view the business as if it's theirs.
Yeah.
You spend the money like it's yours.
And that's hard to do.
Yeah, and then I want the customers to win because I want them to get a good product.
Yeah.
Or a service, whatever it is, because I have service companies and product-based companies.
So I'm gonna switch the subject a little bit, but we just covered, your college, your first job. Let's talk about your first company. Is this something that you kind of bootstrapped from the ground up? You mentioned that you worked on startups before.
Yep.
So you want to touch on like what got you into business?
Yeah, the same mentor that I got going with the contract manufacturing company. After I came in, got it up and running good, we got up to about, I don't know, probably 40 to 50 employees. We were doing really well, very, very profitable. Gross margin percentage in the low 20s.
What was that company?
So we rebuilt truck clutches for Eaton Fuller for all of North America. We were doing probably 2,500 clutches a week, reman. And this is back in the early 2000s, and we were killing it. I mean,
you started this like from scratch with your mentor.
Yep. He actually had a metal finishing company. His sales guy went in to call on Eaton Corporation. They're actually over in Charlotte, and they sold them the cleaning solution, the steel shot that they would bead blast the parts with afterwards to clean them. And the guy said, hey, they would usually buy like a year's worth or give them like a year's PO, and then they would do release numbers each month, for so much of the steel shot. And you know what a piece of cast iron looks like a cast iron pan?
Yeah.
You get it when it's nice and gray looking, but it looks like it's got little divots. Well, that's from a shot peening process. Okay. They run that thing through a peening process to clean the casting. Well, clutch is very similar to that, and we have the same exact equipment that like Lodge Skillet company has, because Lodge is one of the largest cast iron skillet company. But they went in to sell them their normal stuff, and they said, hey, we're not doing that this year. We're trying to outsource this. I was like, oh, can we give you a quote on it? Well, yeah, we've had it out for bid for months, and we were about to make a decision. He's like, well, they put a quote together real fast and to take over the whole reman operation for them. Essentially, we take all the components apart. We refurbish every component in the clutch, resize things, remachine things, whatever, rebalance things, and then we would send all the components back to Eaton and Charlotte, and they would assemble the final clutch and test it.
So it sounds kind of similar to your job. like very technical.
Yep. I developed all the
machining.
equipment. Yes. So they had very rudimentary ways. Dude, they were taking these like hammer guns. They would chisel off the rivets. There's these big rivets that would hold the drive disc inside them. They would hand chisel them off with with a wedge style chisel. Then they would take a round chisel and they try to hammer out all the rivets all the way out and disassemble the clutch. Well, I automated all of that stuff. I've made shear systems. We went from 30 people trying to tear down clutches to like right now, we're still doing the same operation.
This company's still running.
We are still remanufacturing these clutches today. This is the 23rd year we've been doing it.
Nice.
We are Six Sigma, and this is a reman operation, meaning, our scrap rates are, really we're probably 2 or 3. I mean, we have, if you're talking about 1 million parts shipped, we have 1 or 2 defects.
Wow.
So, I mean, and we're probably one of the longest running vendors for Eaton.
Damn.
So, Eaton used to be Spicer. Eaton has clutches. They have transmissions. They have rear ends. They did all that. Now Eaton has Hubble, and they have electrical components, hydraulic components, valving, you name it. They're in all kinds of things. But I made such a good friends with all the engineers there. I mean, I still talk to a lot of them. The volume is way down compared to, because now they have what they call their throwaway clutches now, and they don't even reman half of them anymore. But it was an excellent business, learned a lot. But I pretty much took that whole process, streamlined it, built some type of automated piece of equipment to do it all. The only thing they have to do now by hand really is once in a while they have to knock a tag off, or they'll have to use an air tool to fix, to get something unjammed or something. But other than that, there's no.
I remember like one of the first things you told me was like, I'm really good at, production, like efficiency and systems. And like, it just sounded like out of this world to me, because I've never dealt with, logistics, like in person. Everything I do is online.
Yeah.
So it's like looking at a production line and knowing how to like make each step efficient. Which is something I'm excited to see you implement with our company.
Yeah.
Like, because I think it's going to be awesome when you start bringing that here and running the production line and making it more efficient. Like, your son is amazing. We were talking downstairs about how he was going to build rigs to like do certain things, and I was like, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, it's what we try to do. It's just basic stuff, but as a good leader, our jobs are to ask the right questions. So we look at, whether you're looking at data, I mean, I'm big on KPIs. I do business coaching on the Rockefeller Habits, which Vern Harnish wrote 2 books. One is Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. Another one is Mastering the Rockefeller Habits 2.0, where he brought in some of the sales and marketing side. But he studied the Rockefellers and how they handled things, and and everything boiled down to meeting rhythms and metrics. So they never ate alone. Didn't matter if it was breakfast, lunch, or dinner. They always had some key person in their organization eating with them. They didn't. Sometimes they never even talked about business. It was about, hey, how's your family doing, or this or whatever. But you could get a gauge. You can always gauge somebody if there's an issue, because the whole job for us is trying to eliminate the problems. If you do have a problem, how do you make it to where it doesn't happen again? And if it does, it's how can we mitigate the risk or make it less severe if it happens. But their whole thing is what gets measured gets done. What are the KPIs? What are the key performance indicators? And a lot of people, they'll have 30 of them. And, at the end of the day, it's 3 that matter. And they're not sales and profit. Everybody thinks sales and profit are your KPIs. No, KPIs are things that somebody in your organization can control, that they own.
Yeah.
So the key thing when I do my business coaching is we go down the list and we say, okay, who is currently responsible for this number? I start with a P&L and a balance sheet. Who's responsible for every line item on this P&L and this balance sheet? Who then are their direct reports that actually pull the levers, whether these numbers get met or not? Then you figure out, well, for us, it was how many clutches we could tear down an hour in the reman. Okay, so as we made efficiencies, and as I would go out and talk to the people doing it, we eventually got that up to 30, to 40, to 50, to 80. We just kept increasing, and then we would do it with less and less people. And it wasn't because I had robots out there doing it either. It was rudimentary type equipment. I mean, it was a big ram here with a 1-inch piece of high-speed steel lathe bit, and it would shear the the thing off. And then we figure, oh, well, since we're shearing on this side, let's just shear both of these at the same time, because then it's equal pressure. And because these rams, we were using rock crushing cylinders and stuff out of the. We did a lot of repair work around here too. So we were doing work for Waste Management for their big cylinders that they would on their dumpsters and stuff like that. So we had all kinds of crazy stuff.
So you're just like looking for inefficiencies. Who owns this metric?
Yes, and every day, and the big thing with Rockefeller Habits is you have a 5-minute stand-up meeting. All your key people that are over those key areas that they have a number. And when they come to that meeting, what's your number from yesterday? Okay. Is it red, green, or yellow? If it's in the green, great, good job. If it's yellow, okay, what do you need to change to fix that? If it's red, hey, I need to hear from you. Then I need to hear from the rest of this group. Is he full of shit? Is he blowing smoke up everybody's ass? Because if he is, we got to get to the root of the problem. Yeah. Because maybe he's come here 3 days in a row, and it's all pie in the sky, and he's not really thinking about really how to fix this problem.
He needs help. That goes back to the bureaucracy, right? Like everybody trying to cover for the guy.
Yeah.
Trying not to make him look bad.
Yeah. We always keep it very respectful. There is no personal attacks. This is all business. There's no personal. I ain't putting up with that.
And that goes back to the working for you versus.
Yeah, I'll fire somebody over being disrespectful to another teammate in a heartbeat, because that doesn't breed good. I want, if I'm screwing something up, I need you to tell me.
Yeah.
If you think I'm missing something, and because we get blinders on, man, we're in this grind out. We're grinding stuff out every day. You got operators that are just, man, they're churning the stuff out. You get blinders on, and you can't see what's around you. Mm-hmm. And if I'm over here and I stick my head up, I can see and I can look around, and I see something that can help you, I should help you, And that's what we try. That's the culture we try to achieve. Now, granted, hey, man, we had our problems just like everybody else. There's an asshole in every bunch, you know. You just got to,
That's us.
Yeah, that's right. I'm usually the asshole. But I've had so many great employees over the years, and, and I'm not tooting my own horn or anything. I'm sure I have some that would, probably kick dirt on me right now, but it was because, they didn't agree with the culture that I wanted, and that's okay too.
Just fine. You filter them out.
It's no different than customers. We fire customers just as we do employees. If they don't appreciate what we're bringing to the table and they don't value what we're, offering, they're not our customer, mm-hmm. I used to do anything and everything for everybody, and now it's just not the case. There's a good fit, and where we can all help each other, and then there's others that just need to go somewhere else and deal with that, But
I just had a quick drink, which, by the way, thanks for all the amazing bourbon here. Like, obviously you can see this is Tommy's private collection behind us. It's quite extensive. It's like more bourbon than I've ever seen outside of a restaurant or a store. And we got this Weller Antique 107 here we're drinking on.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, just took a quick water break, but whiskey break.
Yeah, all things in moderation.
Yeah, but hey, I have a list of questions that I wanted to bang out, for the audience in regards to buying e-commerce businesses. So
yeah,
what was the point where you went to school, you got this job, you had a job, and then you started this business. Like, obviously, maybe you never sold the business, but when did you transition to like, oh, I can actually buy these companies and build them and resell them or keep them, manage them as assets? Like, what was that transition?
So I sort of knew I wanted to do it. In 2005 or 6, I joined a CEO group called Vistage Worldwide. And their focus is to, number one is one day a month, you go to a meeting wherever you all meet, and it's all CEOs of other businesses. Not typically, you wouldn't have a competing partner in there. Mm-hmm. So like if there was 2 general contractors, they wouldn't put them in the same group, because of trade secrets and things like that. So everybody was from a different arena. None of us had the same kind of business, but we all had the same problems. People, cash, sales, things like that. It's the same things everybody has. Issues with same everybody has. Doesn't matter what kind of business you're running. But when I was in there, I knew that I wanted to grow my business, and you either grow by scaling your business, which at the time I was doing a lot of contract manufacturing, and I would make other products for other people. Well, at the end of the day, I realized I'm not in control of any of this. I can give as much opinion and make as many suggestions as I can to these other companies that own the product that they're doing. And so I just decided I was going to start looking for other companies to make, that I could potentially buy. So our first acquisition, we actually bought one of our vendors out that we were actually making parts for.
They were paying you.
Yep, they were paying me to make stuff for them, and
bought
I ended up buying them. So then I had my own product, and so which was pretty cool,
Yeah.
And so in doing that, I was like, man, I really like this. It was about 3 or 4 years.
Is there like some hidden benefit to like buying a vendor that you feel?
Well, it was at the time it was a big percentage of our business, and I felt like if I was to buy them instead of somebody else buying them, if somebody else bought them, they could just do away with me, and just go find another vendor or move it somewhere else. And I really liked the engineers and the people that were working for them, and just thoroughly, enjoyed that industry. And so I was like, well, hey, about 3 years after that, I wanted to look at something else. So what I did, we ended up hiring a COO to take my place, and I stepped out of the day-to-day. And it's really from Vistage, they really instilled in me to work on the business instead of in the business. Get yourself separated. So that was the whole point of them taking you away for a whole day, off-site. You're not at your place of business, so people can't bother you the whole time you're there, to really just focus on the business. And that's where it really instilled in me that, I want to buy more companies to grow instead of just trying to scale this and hire more salespeople here, more salespeople there. I've never been independently wealthy, so it's a lot easier to go buy something that's cash flowing. I could easily go and borrow the money to do that. It would pay for itself pretty much. You may have to put some investment resources in there, which we always would put in our budgets. And the bank, they want to see you putting up a good chunk of cash too.
You got the down payment and then the reserve cash.
And then they want a 3 to 5 year plan, and you got to have the funding for that has to come from you. And so we always make sure that it's well funded.
So like, were you? Sorry to interrupt. But
no, you're fine.
Were you concerned with the risk associated with buying businesses, or like how did you kind of like map your way through like? Because with real estate, right, you buy a piece of property. There's not much that can go wrong. But with business, business can kind of, it's up and down. You can have good years, bad years. So how did you kind of manage that risk, mentally?
So the way I look at it, in doing business coaching, I've looked at hundreds and hundreds of companies, help them scale. I'm like, if I can do that for all of them, I can definitely do that for myself. I developed a criteria. It's about 20 bullet points that if there's an over and under on each one. If it's under,
I gotta see these bullet points.
Yeah. It's and if it doesn't make the cut, it don't make the cut. Doesn't matter whether I would love to do it or not, or any of that stuff. If it doesn't meet those numbers, for one, I probably is not going to be able to get it funded properly. Two, it's going to be more. It's going to be just like a startup. So if that's the case, I'll just take the money that I was going to buy the company with, and I'll just go do the startup myself. Well, the time it takes to do startups now is just. It's a grind, and I mean, I'm almost 50 years old, and I'll be honest with you, I don't want to work that hard. It's and too much of it relies on me. Then I got to make all the processes, develop all the standard, because not many people know how to do that.
Yeah, that is one of the nice things about buying a business is it's kind of just there, and you can make improvements on it.
Yep. So I have to have at least 3 points in the company that I'm buying that I know that I can improve by at least 20%.
Okay.
Minimum.
What were the 3 for my company? I'm glad I made these 20.
Yeah. You did all. You made them all.
Passed all the.
It was mainly just obviously revenue is typically one. Gross margin is another, which I feel like we're gonna target some things that you weren't targeting. We're going to fulfill some things that you weren't ever really interested in fill, because we already have space, people doing that already, so we can bring that kind of stuff in house and do it. We're just going to offer some more things to increase revenue and bottom line. We're going to save money on some cost of goods, and we're going to increase some revenue, and from different distribution points that y'all weren't doing.
Yeah.
Because of some of the distribution challenges.
Yeah, I mean, people think that you have to build like a perfect company, to successfully sell it. And honestly, I found that every buyer that we talked to, they were almost looking for the bad. Like they weren't really looking for the good as much as they were looking for like, what can I improve?
See, I'm only looking for opportunities for improvement. Yeah. I don't. There's always going to be bad, and you're going to have things that you didn't think of and look at, but the potential has to be exponentially, but that 20 to 30% better. And when I say 20, 30%, that's in the first 18 to 24 months. I'm not going to sit here and I don't like going into buying a company and flipping it upside down in the first 6 months, changing everything. I've never seen that work, for one. That's exactly what private equity does. That's why I don't do private equity. I was involved with one of those deals. It worked out horrible. The worst business experience I've ever had.
Technically, your equity is private.
Well, yeah, that's true. But you know what I'm talking about in the terms of this industry, private equity and these big.
It's like raising money and it's
Yes,
all corporate bullshit.
yeah. I'm not. I'm a board of. I have a partner, and we're a board of two.
Yeah.
And in the purchasing and the buying process, me and him, we go back and forth on things. But once the company is bought, me and him have guardrails set up, and otherwise, unless it's going on one side or the other of that, I don't ask him and he don't ask me. And we have
It was a good relief, from a seller perspective when, we were speaking with the guy that was managing the acquisition for you. He told us like, oh yeah, we're not gonna mess with the company for 6 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, good, because I was really worried that somebody was gonna come in, acquire our business, and just flip it upside down and just fuck everything up. And I've literally seen this happen with like friends that I've had that have sold businesses.
Yep.
And then they come back with like all these problems, and it just doesn't end up being a good experience. And
No.
I really wanted to have this conversation. Like, it was genuinely a dream of mine to sit here, with somebody who acquired one of my business and potentially become a mentor of mine, or and just have a good relationship. So I was really excited when I heard that, the guy that was managing the acquisition and you were like very experienced with business and very patient. And yeah, it's just really smart the way that you guys handle the acquisition and the onboarding. And how's it going so far? It's been like 3 months or so.
Yeah, it's really been a huge learning curve. Obviously, you guys. What really drew us to you guys was how you were doing things different. And we didn't really know the full extent of how you were doing it different. But when I talked to Gary about it, my partner, I was like, they're doing something way different than our other e-com business.
Yeah, 'cause you had three or four other deals.
Yeah. So I said, they're doing something different. I want to know what it is. I want to learn what they're doing. And I want to take what they're doing and use it in our other companies. And we're already doing that. We're already using those, I'll say it, creative ways.
Yeah, you're already using like our ad strategy
Yes.
for other business, right?
Ad strategy, the creative strategy for all the imaging and videos.
Yep, with the AI systems.
And it's already, those are things that, man, you change, and in 30 to 60 days, you're seeing immediate results.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's already worked for that. And here's the way I look at it. Me and Gary said, hey, with the way that our other businesses are progressing, your business could just stay neutral for the next 12 to 24 months, and we would still probably pay for the company in 3 years.
Yeah,
with the increases from the other businesses.
Yeah, which that was really interesting earlier when you were like, one of the things we loved about your business was that, you had the ad strategy sorted out, and you had, experienced some ups and downs, and you were actually able to recover out of that, which if you've seen my Discord and like the documentation that I did while building this brand, that it was up and down. And you saw the P&Ls, and like we had some months where we were losing money, immediately followed with 100K profit months. And it was really interesting that you actually enjoyed that, as a buyer. You were like, wow, there's something that, to be able to recover so quickly and blah, blah, blah. Like you're almost buying these companies as a form of mentorship in some way to learn something that you didn't before that you can then apply to your other businesses.
It's like my son Owen, he was taking business courses in college and whatnot, and he would come on. He's like, Dad, I'm learning more working with you in the summer than I learn at all in these business classes and whatever like that. And it's no different for me. You learn the best when you're immersed in it. It's just like if you're going to go try to learn a new language, the best thing to do is just go live there and immerse yourself in it. Well, we learn the most on these. We've learned a ton so far with your business. We've been then training our other employees, which manage our other companies and as well. And it's becoming a real. We're going to be in all of our categories. We're going to be a force to reckon with as far as competition.
Yeah, I agree. The company that we put together, it's like, I don't know. I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's an amazing foundation. Like I was like genuinely excited for the next owner, especially because. Everything we were doing on Google ads and meta ads, and the fact that it was like, it's so consistent, all year round for multiple years in a row. And we're not optimized on multiple sales channels. Like there's so much room to grow with COGS too. Like, potentially bringing inventory and fulfillment in-house.
Yep.
We just left so much meat.
Manufacturing in-house is a lot of opportunity.
I was in and out of the business in 15 months, something like that. So I didn't have as much time, whereas like you sat down, like if you had unlimited money, to grow the unlimited money and time to grow this business, what would you do?
Yep.
And
That's exactly what I asked you.
Dude, that's like, I didn't ask that question a single fucking time when I owned it.
Yeah.
You know, it's an amazing question because you actually start like thinking like, okay, hold on, let's slow down, let's plant some seeds, let's do things a little bit slower and make those micro investments for the long term. But anyways, getting off topic, I did want to ask you, what did you like specifically about our company? Like, what were the green flags that you saw early on that, I guess this was more, your partner that was prospecting for businesses, but obviously you learned about it along the way. So what were some green flags that you loved? You already mentioned that we were doing things different or whatever. And then what plans do you have for it? Like, what do you plan on doing with this business now?
So we want to be the largest manufacturer and distributor in our industry. And the competition is, there's not as many as I thought there was, and I don't think that's too lofty of a goal, but in the next 3 to 5 years, we want to be the biggest and best ones doing it, offering the best quality, the best service, delivery times, whatever we're currently doing now as far as the revenue. I feel like it's easily a business that can be at least 3 to 4x what you're currently doing now, and really just taking our time, you know what I mean, and making calculated changes and moves in some of our strategies, not rushing things. I think it's just the opportunity with the other channels is every one of these new channels could be as big as one of our bigger channels now, So
and you're talking about Amazon, TikTok Shop,
yep,
Etsy,
we're already back on Pinterest, as well. And just and really all the email strategy too is really coming around. We're getting quite a bit of traffic there, utilizing the new videos, the new creatives.
Yeah, we slacked off there, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, you can't be everything all the time. You guys focused on what was driving profitability. And the main reason that me and Gary made the decision to purchase you guys were you guys had a rough Q1 and Q2 of last year, and you put your noses down to the grindstone. You solved a lot of problems. You did a lot of blocking and tackling yourself to make the changes that you've made. You implemented a lot of good strategy. You documented your processes. You had good financial reporting, and we love to see people that can overcome under pressure. And every time we talk to you, you guys said, "Hey, we're going to be here after the sale. We want you to be successful." Most of the people that we are interviewing to potentially buy and team up with and partner with, they never say that.
Really?
No. They're ready to they're ready to be gone. Most of them 90 days you don't hear from them again. We'll have to contact them if they didn't give us a password or something or another we needed, or we've owned this one business for it's almost 3 years now, and we realized that their internet server had a password on the main modem or something, like their router or something, about a month ago. So we had to call the old owner from 3 years ago, and he knew it though. He remembered it. Yeah. But he had the business for 30 years prior, But it's most of them don't care about what happens after. Well, they just want their check. They just want their check.
Yeah, we wanted the check, but it's like I said, I wanted to develop a relationship and potentially even sell you more businesses down the road.
Let's hope so.
You never know.
We have a good working relationship. You guys have been spot on. You've really went above and beyond what any buyer would do normally.
I still keep the business open on my computer. I'm just looking at it every day. Like the second I see, I was literally just bitching at your team the other day.
Yeah.
I saw they fucked something up, and I'm like, hey, you guys need to lock in.
Yeah, they were definitely having some technical issues, but we have a really good team. They take criticism very well. Mm-hmm. They're very, very respectful. And they know they've got to step up some things, and they're learning. You got your strategy on the ads and on the creative is way different than what we were doing, they were doing. Mm-hmm. And man, we have 2 of our employees were former Google employees, and so they know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. And 2 of them work for Meta. So we have 4 of our employees that out of 10 on our marketing team that have worked for Meta and for Google. So. And you guys are doing things different that they didn't know about and never heard about as far as strategy.
And it's worked well. So.
And it's working extremely well. And we're now using the same strategy for our other companies already. So
that's interesting. Yeah, because you buy one company, you learn something, or maybe they have, retail connections, like you were looking at other companies in a similar niche, and they all kind of work together and help your team grow and become better. It's very interesting.
And you guys have been good mentors to them. Y'all been patient. They, where I can tell that they were doing some things that were aggravating to you guys, but they were a little bit slow out of the gate, but they're coming around, and
they're a lot more caught up than the people I'm used to mentoring.
Yeah. So I mean, we're like I say, we're about 75, 80 days in. So, but it's.
I thought it was doing good, man. I saw the numbers like a few weeks ago. You guys were on a tear like before they went and fucked all the numbers up.
Yeah.
But no, it was crazy because I was watching it like, damn, I don't know if we'd be beating these numbers. Like if you look at our
this
numbers,
time of year,
yeah, like if you look at
historical,
last year at this time it was in the shit, basically like breaking even.
But that's when y'all were making the transition and turning the company around.
Oh yeah, I mean we had a huge scale window and then we scaled back and then we got beat up a bit, like we couldn't find new winning ads and like all this other stuff, and hot season is coming up. But even right now, like I think your team is doing amazing and I think they're going to continue doing good as long as they stay on top of it.
Well, I think with you guys mentoring us and helping us, just giving that top level advice is, hey man, we really need to cut these ads 2 days ago. Let's quit hoping and praying. Just because the ad's your baby, you can't be special with it because you worked 2 days building it. You just got to cut it loose.
No, I mean testing ads is cutthroat.
It is.
You got to like let go. But with AI now, it's when we were scaling this business, we had to whip out our phones and do actual photo shoots, and now you can just whip up 50 image ads very quickly in a few hours. So
yeah,
just let them go. If they don't work, let them go, and make sure you stay on top of the numbers. I know one question a few people have had for me, when I tell them about our story and like how I bought the business, came in, fixed a bunch of shit, cut a bunch of overhead, maximized profits. They always ask me like, what would you do to sell a business? So, or like, what would you do to like help me prepare to sell my business? So I want you to think of this from the perspective of you are going to actually buy their business. Mm-hmm. What do you want to see them do? Like imagine they just have whatever a run-of-the-mill e-com business looks like in your head. What do you want them to do a year ahead of time or 2 years ahead of time to like really plant the seeds to be the best, the best lead for a business for you to possibly buy, like from a buyer perspective?
The number one thing that a buyer is going to look for is that when they have to replace you as the owner, how many hats are you wearing? How many hours are you working a week? How ingrained are you in that business's success? If you can't be easily replaced, you're going to have a hard time selling your company. If every decision hinges on you, you're going to have a hard time finding a buyer. If you're responsible for too much, every time I do roles and responsibilities with a company, when I go in to do a business coaching, and you're underwater, you're just swimming, okay? You're overwhelmed, you're overworked, you're burnt out. My number one thing is roles and responsibilities. I call it the Post-it note exercise. I write down everything you do daily, weekly, monthly, yearly that you're responsible for. Then we go through every one of them and figure out who on your team can do that. And we assign those names. And then all we have left is what only you can do. Well, then we ask the question, if you're going to sell in 12 to 18 months, which is what I help them prepare to do, and my goal is, it's like if they're looking at a 3 times or a 5 times or a 7 times multiple, not only are we looking at, okay, what's that multiple going to be, but okay, what's the profitability at that range as well? Is it beneficial for you to hire somebody to do half of what's left of those Post-it notes? Because your business goes from being worth 3 times X or profit to 5 times profit because you're not hard to replace because you've already hired somebody that's now doing those roles.
This is actually kind of surprising to hear because I feel like our business was quite reliant on us. Like we did not have a huge team. We were doing the ad buying on Google, Facebook. We were creating the.
But you had good
ads.
Process.
We had it all processed out, and we also had this huge to-do list that every single thing we did for the business for the last year and a half was written down.
Yes.
Which I gave to
documentation. Yeah, you had documentation. You had process.
Yeah,
that was the difference.
Give it to your partner. I'm sure you looked at it.
Yeah.
Like literally everything.
Well, and you also had a list of, hey, if these are the things you would do too if you were to continue to own it.
Yeah, 100%. So you could literally go back and even though we were doing a lot of it, you could go back and see exactly what we did.
We still have plenty of things on that list to do.
And then you can match it with the P&Ls.
We just don't want to move. We're not trying to move too fast with it because we realize in your industry, making too big of a change too fast could end disastrously.
Yeah, 100%.
So, but back to your question, I mean, think about, you got two buyers. You got somebody that, hey, they're working somewhere else and they're going to take their retirement and they're going to go invest in your company. They don't care if you are wearing a lot of hats because they're just going to do it. They're going to come in. It's what we call a lifestyle business. They're just going to come in and run it and do everything you're doing because they feel like they have the talent to do it. That's like 10% of the buyers, okay? Because even if there's 50% of those people that are trying to do it, only 10% of them, those 50%, can actually get funding or have resources to go do it. So the other half of the buyers are guys like me that instead of going investing in the stock market, I'm investing in people and products and process. I'm just, I want to buy a process. I don't want another 40-hour-a-week job. Okay, I have a marketing team that I knew with some coaching could do what you guys are doing.
100%.
So that's how I made the decision. But we bought it because of you and Ethan and your ability to, with what you did with the turnaround.
Yeah.
I don't, there's a lot of people, man, they get lucky and everything goes great and like gangbusters and they never experience any discomfort. They don't have any trials they have to go through. But guys that can go from where you guys were in Q1 and Q2 and turn it around and make it profitable, and you had a great, 2025 really at the end, by the end, that says a lot about your character, your work ethic, and your ability to solve problems. That's the guys that I want to, do more with.
Yeah. And we documented the whole thing.
Yep. You had good processes, you had good documentation, and you had good financials. So when you talk about things that people got to get in order, you got to get your personal spending out of your company, okay? Or you got to document it really well, and it needs to be on the balance sheet, not on your profit and loss.
I remember one transaction from like 2023, before I bought the business. I was like scrambling, like, what the fuck? What was this? And like nobody knew, and it ended up being like a computer monitor or something stupid.
Yeah. But that's the number one thing, is try to figure out how to prepare that business to run without you. The more you can do to prepare for the next owner, the more comfortable they're going to be with the risk.
Yeah. And I mean, even if you are, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, even if you are wearing a lot of the hats, there's still buyers out there that are like you, like that want an investment, because you brought your own team. You brought your ad creative guy, you brought your Google ad guy, your Facebook ad guy, your email marketing, social media, like pretty much everything to do to run this company. You already had somebody to do it. And then you had the documentation from us, So, and we
that made it really easy though.
And we give you the peace of mind knowing that we're going to be there. We're not going to ditch on you. And, I'm not speaking out of my ass just to sell the business. I really meant that.
No.
And I don't even think we'll be together on a consulting relationship. I think we're genuinely going to be friends, and I plan on coming down here and hanging out and tasting some more bourbon sometime.
Let's hope so.
So I'm just like,
I plan on heading out to Arizona every once in a while. So
absolutely. You're welcome.
I think there's plenty. I think there's so much stuff we can collaborate on, and we've got some pretty cool people and some pretty great minds that when you look at what you have in your toolbox, what we have in our toolbox, what you're learning daily, what our guys are learning daily with AI and with all these platforms that are changing all their algorithms constantly, and that stuff is we just really expanded our team. For me, I feel like that's the relationship we have. And I have not had this with any buyer of all the companies I've bought. I haven't had this. So, but you and Ethan both made some good comments that let us realize when we were looking at buying you that, hey, you guys aren't going to just, dump us and run, that we're going to have something. And, I see a lot that we can learn from you, and I hope we can help you guys grow too.
Yeah. 100%. All right. Well, that should wrap it up, but thanks for coming on here and sharing. I think it's going to be valuable to a lot of people, and hopefully we'll do some more business together.
Yeah, man. Me too. I hope so. I mean, there's so much out there right now, and we've got as leaders, we just have to ask the right questions of our people, our customers, what things we can do better, how we can serve them better, and then really just challenge our team to step it up. And because I always would go to my guys and say, hey, I have these crazy ideas, and I'm like, is this even possible? I've envisioned it. I think we can do it based on my limited knowledge a lot of times, and like I said, I tell people all the time, hey, I'm just a dumb machinist from Chatham County. I'm and I'm not the best one by any means. I can make anything and make anything work most of the time, but I'm not the best one out there by any means. But I don't have to be. It's just like with the ad strategy you guys had and that kind of stuff. I didn't have to be the best at that either, because we've got good people.
100%.
And so I don't think that it's my job to know every role and every aspect and every detail. I think a lot of buyers think they do need to know all that stuff. No, they just need to know who knows it. And if you don't know who knows it, where can you go find out the information? And right now you've got more assets at your fingertips than ever before. If you really want to know, you can find out. There are gurus out there. There are guys, it might cost you an arm and a leg to learn it, but I guarantee you it's cheaper than you fumble farting around with it for years or months.
Yeah.
Just pay somebody that knows how to do it. A friend of mine out in California, he started a website. I think it's called Partner Here, and you can go in there and solicit. Hey, here's my problem. Here's what I need help with, and it could be a legal problem, it could be a engineering problem or whatever. And people will go on there and say, hey, I can do that for $2,000. I can help you with that. I can fix that, whatever. And it's just a bunch of people that work part-time for other people. It's sort of like what we were talking about with like a fractional CFO. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people that need that. All of my consulting gigs are with companies that just need help in direction. They know that they want to prepare for sale. They know that it's coming. Some of them are just like, hey, in 3 years, this is where I want to be. And I just go in, I help them hire people to do what they're doing, because a lot of times those guys they're really doing the job of 3 because they're the owner. You can't expect normal people to invest that much time and sacrifice that much of their life if they don't own it.
Right.
You're fooling yourself, And the big thing, like I've sold companies too, and you have to be okay with somebody else taking care of your baby. And you got to realize they're probably only going to do it to about 80% of the way you were doing it.
Yeah, it might be part of the reason I check it every day.
Yeah. It just, you either got to get comfortable with it not being done as good as you can do it. But at the end of the day, you only have so many hours in the day too. So as long as you're focused on the important things, you got to let some of them little details go. As long as those little details don't impact your important numbers drastically, you learn in the end it doesn't really matter anyway. Yeah. There's 2 or 3 things you're going to be known for in the end. It's not going to be 100.
Yeah.
You better make it worth your while.
Well, thank you so much for sharing and coming on.
Yeah.
And this is going to be legendary.